today's show, you'll hear investor perspectives on the growing HR tech sector. This is Investor Perspectives. I'm the host of Investor Connect, Hall T. Martin, where we connect startups and investors for funding. HR tech continues to grow and advance based on new technologies. In today's show, you'll hear about a new company in the sector called Upskill. Our featured guests are Stephen Rice, Ginny Irvine, Gary Cooper, and John Reynolds. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with the Why I Invested webinar today with the company Upskill. We have a great company to share with you today, and we have their investors along to talk about why they invested in Upskill. This is brought to you by 10 Capital. 10 Capital helps startups and investors connect for funding. I'm Hall Martin, the founder, and we're looking forward to today's discussion with Stephen Rice. And Stephen, can you go ahead and give us a quick update on Upskill, what it is and how it's working today, and then we'll jump into some questions with your investors.
Yes, sure, no problems. And hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. We're Upskill Enterprise. We've been established now for 5 years, and COVID-19 has highlighted long-standing human resource issues that really challenge companies needing the resilience and agility to fill critical roles, reinforce business continuity, conduct redundancies objectively. And we've all been seeing some of the horror stories across the globe currently in terms of people who have lost their jobs and the need to get people back into work and to recover companies quickly. Quintessentially right now, it's about rebuilding your workforce and looking at the skills that you need to be agile and to respond to the current situation. Talent Census helps companies to better understand their workforce by bringing company organization charts to life, providing an intelligent, equitable, multidimensional view of the skills and talents of your people, looking beyond the organization chart to look at what hidden skills do people have that you could use to really help your company grow. So Talent Census helps companies to plan, measure, retain, acquire, and upskill their talent for maximum business value. What we do is we make what's normally an expensive management consultancy process affordable for all. We bring rationale and objectivity to very crucial business decisions. So that's Upskill Enterprise, and that's our flagship product, Talent Census.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. I'd like to turn our attention now to the investors we have on the panel here today. I want to thank you guys for joining us, and I want to start off with Ginny Irvine and talk about your background as an investor, Ginny, and what did you like about the team?
Thanks very much, Hal. My background as an investor, I came to it interested to find out about expanding my portfolio, mostly from obviously the traditional stocks and shares into something a bit more interesting. And my background is about marketing and storytelling, and always interested in the software as a service and enterprise software because it reaches out and can solve real problems in the enterprise and corporate area. And I came across Stephen. We run an accelerator program here in Belfast as a startup, and we were running a pitching event looking for investment. And Stephen came along and he said, actually, we can't join the event. We're going to be in America. Can we live stream it? And I thought, this is a company that's going places. And that's, from my background, an enterprise solution. It solves a real problem in the skills gap. It's slightly not before its time, but on that upward curve of skills are going to be really important now. People can't rely on just their education and their CV. They need to showcase their skills. And already Stephen has shown traction going off and traveling to the US and building his team and building his product. So this was a company that was going places and needed the extra investment to take it to the next stage.
Great. Thank you. And next is Gary Cooper. Gary, can you give us your background and what do you like about this team?
Hi, Hall. Yeah, I'm not your typical investor insofar that I actually am an entrepreneur myself with 3 exits over 4 startups. And so this is the very first time anybody's convinced me to spend my money in a business that I don't own myself. And that's really down to just the drive, the passion, and sheer enthusiasm that Stephen has for this marketplace. And, before I was an entrepreneur in the HR space, so I headed up a number of the global alliances for PeopleSoft out of the West Coast. Need for a solution like this at this price point. And again, in a digital gap that Stephen is addressing, and the sheer amount of opportunity that exists in this talent management space.
Great. And finally, we have with us John Reynolds. John, can you tell us about your background and what did you like about the team?
Yeah, good evening. Well, I'm 35 years involved in the investment world, so I've been around a while. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been investing directly into early stage businesses. Like Jenny, I started life analysing the major financial markets, but the last 10 years been heavily involved in early stage business startups. And what I particularly like about Stephen is really his drive and enthusiasm for the business and his sheer determination to make it work. But that combined with a clear technology roadmap and also with a clear route to market, because you can have a great idea, you can be a very nice person, but unless you're absolutely able to translate that idea into a workable solution and actually have the end market identified and some key players to work with, you may never get there. But Stephen has identified all those things. He's got his route to market, he's got his technology roadmap laid out, and he's also identified a clear segment of the market where there is a clear need, as Jenny noted and Gary noted. There is a real need really to be able to provide small, medium-sized businesses with a tool which enables them to properly manage their workforce at an affordable price. So when I saw this, I said to him, isn't this the QuickBooks of HR tech? This is fantastic. You can roll this out at a really affordable price for people, really enable them to really fully understand and utilize their workforce in a very, very progressive way. So that's why he got my money.
Great. And on the other side, there's always challenges with the team, things we need to add or grow. John, can you talk to us about what do you think they need to add to this team? What are your concerns you have so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I first met the team, they were a very small team. And of course, it's a very big project. So it's how are you going to translate, your idea into a real business idea? And I then met Gary actually early on in the process. I wanted to meet Gary because, as Gary said, he's been helping, he's done the technology bit. He has links into the technology world and scaling businesses, particularly into America. So when I had the conversation alongside with Gary, I realized that we had an additional partner, investor and into the company that could help him scale the business. So it's this ability to take what is a good idea and translate it into a scalable proposition. So the numbers in the business were small, but I realized that we had a route to market. And as and when we have the right challenge on the S-curve, the real issue then is just about how do we actually manage the channel partners and have sufficient resources to manage that. I think that's the next stage, and that's really why we need now the investment money at this stage.
And Jenny, what are your concerns about the team? Where do we think you need to grow?
Yeah, with similar vein, obviously, going into the American market will take some time and some energy and some resource. David's already started to build that and has got a really good board and a good chair with Jerry, a good business development resource out there. But just building those relations with those partners on the ground. Already targeted 7 states, Stephen, and looking to try and target more and just really get traction through building throughout the US, because this is where this product is going to really hit the ground running. So I think it's just a resource which just comes down to the right investment into the right people to get them into the business. But everything's there and it's ready to go.
And Gary, what's your take on the team and where they need to go?
Yeah, I think it's a case of amplifying what's already been said, but to also emphasize the fact that the hard work's been done, and it's been done with a really lean, agile team. I mean, to say we're talking about less than 10 employees, way less than 10 employees, that have achieved the same level of traction and credibility that I see companies over here with 10 times the employees that would be envious to achieve what Upskill has achieved so far. So, the hard work has been done. We have the agreements with the likes of the workforce boards out of DC. We have an excellent board. We have a very high level of credibility. Now it's simply a matter of, again, driving that traction into the fields and using investments that has a very clear purpose, which is to put feet in the street, to drive that message out, and then scalable revenue.
Well, great. And John, back to you. You made several good points a moment ago about what you liked about the group. But if you had to pick one point that made you decide to invest, which one do you think was the deciding factor for you?
Well, it was actually, I did a lot of due diligence. As I said, I met Gary in the process. I wanted to meet Gary because I knew he committed his money. I wanted to listen to his story. I then wanted to be convinced with what Stephen was telling me about the people and the connections that he had. Because to me, once again, it's how could he actually take this to market? Did he really have the traction with the people? And what really took me over the line, certainly for the first leg of my investment, was when I met the delegation from Philadelphia when they visited Belfast. And I saw firsthand how well Stephen knew these people. It was that convinced me. He wasn't spinning a yarn. It wasn't, he wasn't claiming to have relationships he didn't have. He had the relationships, and I could see it firsthand. And that to me, I've been around a long time. It doesn't take 5 minutes to work out if somebody really does know somebody, whether it's a really strong relationship or a weak one. But Stephen has the relationships, and following on from that, and not only the delegations from Philadelphia, but I've actually met Ron Painter, who is the president of the National Association of Workforce Boards. And when I was sat down with Ron, it was clear Stephen has a fantastic relationship with him. He has the right relationships to make this business work.
That's great. And Jenny, back to you. What was the one point that you thought was the key deciding factor that made you decide to invest?
Yeah, it was very much seeing Stephen take that journey to America and then actually come back to Belfast and build out the product more with the team and the tech team and get it launched. And at that point, you could actually see there was something you could look at and feel and touch, and you could see people using it. And I think that point was a real turning point, that you were starting to see the value in the product and what it could really do, as well as obviously all the hard work that Stephen had done building the relationships, seeing the product up and live, and obviously continuously developing and improving and adding new features is the point that we were able to come in and help support the company to the next level.
Great. And Gary, back to you. What was the key factor that made you decide to invest?
Well, it wasn't just one key factor. Really, if I can partition it into three, I think the first one is it's the right space at the right time. Again, with the dynamics not just of COVID, but also the challenges that companies are facing by merging human capital with automated capital in terms of robotics and AI. So, and that's borne out by PitchBook, for example, quantifying this talent management software market at $25 billion within 5 years. The second reason is the sheer unit economics and business case of the solution. Again, it's a very well-priced solution, and just helping a company avoid one unnecessary hire. And again, I think about this in terms of the technology space. Just in terms of recruitment costs alone, you could be offsetting $20,000 to $30,000 in recruitment fees, let alone the incremental salary. And then lastly, it was down to the partnerships developed. I mean, to say, even within PeopleSoft, with a huge organization like that, to develop the level of relationships with people like the workforce boards would have taken years. And the fact that Stephen was able to do it in a relatively short period of time, again, further convinced me of the market need for this solution.
Great. And so back to you, John. Why do you think this company will be successful? You had to boil it down to just a few key thoughts there. What do you think is a success factor here?
Yeah, I just think it's the cost efficiency of the solution, the drive of the team, in particular Stephen, to make this succeed. I think the combination of right place, right time, hitting in the HR tech market, I think that's why I'm convinced this is the right time for the product.
Great. And what challenges do you see the company needing to overcome at this point?
Yeah, it's all going to be about the scaling side of it. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's about finding the right people now to work with to really drive this all out. It's less of a technology issue now. As Jenny said, the technology is there. It is continually being upgraded and refined. Like any technology product or platform, that's always the case. But now it's just about finding the right people with the right inspiration to go out there and make this happen.
Right. And Jenny, same questions. Why do you think this company will be successful, and what challenges do you think the company needs to overcome at this time?
I think in terms of the small to medium businesses, we all know some businesses that could use this tool. And I think that was kind of the real life examples that we were able to see. It showed that this is going to be successful when people look at the tool and see the benefits and the value from it. They really want to be able to use it. And it's very sticky then because it can be used for recruitment and retention and then obviously redundancy. So it's going to be a tool that will be around the companies for a year once they're onboarded. I think that's why it'll be successful. It's not a one-off solution that they use today. They'll continue to use it and they'll see real value from it. And the second part of your question was on challenges. I suppose, it is just getting those relationships built further into the more workforce boards within the next new states. Stephen's proven that he can do it with the states that he has already and built those relations. And it's just finding each individual connection with the workforce boards and building those out as to what they need to deliver this, and each works slightly maybe differently in terms of how they distribute this out to their companies within their boards. So and getting it out as a pilot and as a trial to show the success locally, and then that continues to mushroom into future opportunity. So I think that's getting the foot to the door for new workforce boards, and that's where the investors and the community and network that we've built up and Stephen's built up can add real value and do those introductions and build that out.
Great. And Gary, you've touched about this a few moments ago about why you think the company is successful. What would you like to add to that? And then what challenges do you see the company overcoming?
Yeah, no, the time is definitely right for technology that lets an organization bring its organization chart to life in such an intelligent way, in such a visual way. So as far as challenges are concerned, it really is, the opportunity is there to then scale up. The challenge simply is down to getting the right investments, to put the right headcounts in the fields, because again, from a strategic alliances perspective, two major challenges are the big hard bit is getting that strategic deal signed, which Stephen has across a number of areas, such as workforce boards and the Chamber of Commerce. Now all we need to do is drive that message into the field with the right number of people, and the traction will simply multiply. So the good news is the challenge is simply one of getting enough feet in the streets to develop an already successful message.
Great. And John, how are you helping the team? What are you doing these days to work on this project with them?
Okay, well, I'm acting as a sort of a strategic sounding board for Stephen. I've helped him early stage with his business strategy, looking at the financials, just making sure that, when we're going for a raise and the numbers add up, that and they're attractive, it's an attractive proposition. So just helping Stephen pass on my knowledge really about, the valuation of companies, how to position strategically what he needs to do, and providing any guidance that he wants to have from me. I'm an open book and I'm here to help, basically.
Great. And Jenny, what role are you playing with the company now, and how are you helping the team?
Yeah, I think I've been working a lot with Stephen in terms of the investor relationship building and trying to do introductions, both here locally to funds and angel investors, and we introduced to 10 Capital over in America as well. So just being that kind of connection piece and being the ambassador for the company to open those doors and try and start those conversations.
Great. And Gary, what's your role these days? How are you helping the team?
Yeah, really, it's from a sales and business development advisory role. Again, also having spent quite a bit of time in strategic alliances, helping Stephen refine his channel strategy. I'm originally from Belfast, where Stephen's based, but I've been in the States for 26 years. So my other sort of role with Stephen is to help him just simply navigate the subtle nuances that exist in terms of positioning between both those geographies.
Very good. And John, the final question here today is, what else do you think the investors should know about the company? What have we not covered that they should be aware of?
Well, I think it's important to know, if you're going to put your money into a business, that it's not going to get frittered away. And what I can say is that the company is managed extremely efficiently, and there's no fat in the business. So any money that an investor puts in is going to be put to good use, and it's not going to be squandered away. So that is, to me, a very, very important thing. And I think Stephen has shown over the last 5 years that he's managed to bring a business to this stage, heavily bootstrapped and with some initial seed money from the likes of him and the others on the call here today. But he has really made sure that the money has gone a long way. And that's good news.
That's great. And Jenny, what are your closing thoughts there about anything else the investors should know?
I mean, I think this is what we would call in Northern Ireland an FDI opposite. So quite often we get companies from America coming to base themselves here in Northern Ireland, where we're doing the opposite with Upskill, which is really ambitious and really exciting. We're taking it from Northern Ireland, taking the low resource cost base here, also using technology out in the Far East to keep the resource cost down and enabling that runway to be extended as far as possible, taking the technology, taking the sales and the product and launching it into America. So it is a bit of a reverse launch from the UK into America, and there's great opportunity because we've been able to keep the costs down and because we're lean and agile and ready to go. So back to John's point, the money will go a long way.
That's great. And Gary, what else do you think we should cover here before we wrap up today?
Yeah, look, my parting thoughts, it's as good a no-brainer as you're going to come across, not just because of the market size and the need in the markets, but also because of the valuation. My other businesses look at the US and the UK. And in this case, Stephen's valuation is probably about a quarter to a fifth of the equivalence valuation that you get from a domestic US startup. And not only that, as John and Jenny have already talked about, your money's going to go a lot further because the burn rate that we've set up with an Upskill, again, is probably anywhere from about a third to a fifth of what the typical burn rate would be with a domestic US startup. So again, for those reasons, that's why I describe it as a complete no-brainer.
Well, great. That wraps up the questions we have right now. Let's go back to Stephen, and maybe Stephen, you give us a recap of the current fundraise status. Where are we with it and what the terms are?
Yeah, so the current fundraise status, we are still seeking around $700,000 to be precise, $700,000 at a valuation of 2.2 million. Now, we are in discussions with a number of different potential investors at this point in time, obviously, given the traction that we have and given the excitement that is around in the marketplace at the minute for solutions that are both successful within this current climate, but also add value to society as a whole. So we are in a number of discussions. We're going through a number of due diligence questions with various funders, but we are open to conversations at the minute. We want to get the right investor in place and in play. So please do reach out and connect with us, because this opportunity is real, it's here, and the market is there, and we want to take advantage of it. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Great. Well, we're near the end of our time. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Stephen, for the update. Gary, John, Junie, thank you so much for taking time to give us your perspectives on it. I always find these webinars very fascinating. I learn a great deal and appreciate your sharing your perspectives and your contributions to these startups. We'll go ahead and close it out now, and we'll look forward to sharing this information with the other investors in the network as we go forward.
Thank you for joining us today. As always, be sure to leave a review, subscribe to this podcast, and share it with others. Let's go start up something today. Alti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.